Hello and welcome to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Sermon, and I am thrilled to have you here today on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. The show is for those wanting to learn more about creating financial wellness, and we will be taking different life cycles and exploring them financially and emotionally, because personal finances are usually not about the money, believe that or not. Rather, they're about the emotions associated with your money. Your goal, our goal, should I say, is to look at how to prepare for these life cycles and how to thrive on the other side. And although we may have a theme or a topic for the show, I can assure you the financial strategies we talk about are going to be applicable to many different situations that you face. Although, as I said, we may have a topic in the general discussions, we'd love to hear from you. Make it more personal and more relevant, especially if you have topics or questions about the topics that we're speaking about. Call in, or you can reach me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. Going solo can mean different things to different people. It can be a divorce, death of a loved one, perpetual bachelorhood, and I'm sure there's a myriad of other ways that you can look at that as well. We plan on covering all of these and more. We're just not going to do it all on today's show. So please do continue to listen to future shows as we cover these topics, and don't forget to let us know what topics are of interest for you. Today, we are going to focus mainly on the black hole of financial aid, and today is exactly 1 month until the financial aid season begins, and I know that's really hard to believe. For many of us, we've just sent our kids off to college, or up in the Northeast, potentially it's next week that we're doing that, and then we got to turn around and think about next year. I know that this can be a little daunting, and knowing the process and how it works, whether you're married, whether you're divorced, whether you're single, it's crucial to optimizing your financial aid award, and we'll get into that over the show. My guest today is VICKI Vollweiler, founder of College Financial Prep. VICKI, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, and thank you for having me, Hirsch. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And I actually, before we get into the show properly, I have two quick shout outs. One is to the person who voicemailed me 30 minutes ago and said, hey, I've set an alarm specifically to drop everything I'm doing just to listen to the show. So thank you for that. No pressure. The other one is to VICKI, though. About 3 weeks ago, I referred one of my clients over to VICKI. And last night we had our meeting again. This is the first one since she met with VICKI. And she told me they appealed their financial aid award that they had received, and get this, received an additional $5,300 of money over the original award. So you can see how important it is to understand what you're doing, or to get a guide like VICKI to help you. And VICKI, thank you for helping my client. So a big shout out to that. But
fabulous. I wasn't aware yet. Thank you.
Can you share a little bit how you got into helping people through the college financial prep process, even beyond, it's not, as we've just mentioned, the application itself and knowing how to pick those schools. But if you can share a little about your experiences, I think often the journey somebody themselves have taken helps people understand the passion behind what they do for helping others through an unfamiliar process.
Well, a little bit about me. I do have my MBA, so I am analytical, financial. But anyway, I went through my own divorce about a good 9 years ago or so at this point. And from there, I was dissatisfied with the process. Anyway, that being said, I decided to become a divorce coach to help people streamline the process, make better decisions, analyze their own personal finances so that they can make the best decisions moving forward for themselves. I try to help people separate the emotions from the finances. And as I would help clients more on the financial side, their personal budgets, should they keep, should they sell their home, things of that nature, clients started to ask me, well, now I need to send my children to college. What am I going to do? How do I save money? We don't have anything saved up for this. And at the same time, my own kids were starting to get older, and I'm thinking, oh, I need to start thinking about this too. So after many now years of research and through working with clients, this has certainly become a passion of mine because it's the one area, especially when families are divorced, that it truly helps people save money, as opposed to, all the costs that come along with divorce. This is one area where I can really help people.
So I'll tell you, it's funny you say that because firstly, the knowledge around how the process works is lacking in society. Everybody knows that there is a process, but they really don't know how it works. And it's funny that you were mentioning, because too often what I find is people had savings potentially towards college, not necessarily covering all of college, but when they go through a divorce, they need to tap into their funds, and sometimes that goes away. And so their situation can very quickly change when they're looking at college because they've now spent it on the divorce as opposed to on college.
Right,
as we know, divorce can be very expensive. And I think too often there are so many misunderstandings around who should fill in the paperwork, who should, fill out these financial aid forms, and the process as a whole. I don't think people really understand how to pick a college and all the rest that comes with that. Should only people who need financial help fill out these forms who think they're going to get it, or why should everybody fill them out?
Well, everybody should fill them out, regardless of need or not. And there's a few reasons for that. So the first reason is a lot of the schools, not 100%, but many of the schools offer merit scholarships. And that's typically going to be the largest area of free money for families to get. But that's going to come only with filling out the FAFSA form, the financial aid forms. There's also another form called CSS profile that, we could get into a little later. But in general, you need to fill out the FAFSA form to even qualify to get the merit scholarships. Another reason, obviously, is to get the financial need if the family needs it. A third reason to fill out the FAFSA form is for work study. If the child wants to apply for a work study program, you need to fill out the financial aid form. Lastly, it doesn't matter if a family earns $50,000 or $500,000. If that family wants to take out, thinks that they may need some loans, the loans offered to the student by filling out the financial aid form has the lowest interest rate associated with it. So it makes total sense to fill out the form just to be able to get that loan. Right now, with everything going on in the world, I believe it's at 2.75% right now for students this year. So, definitely makes sense. Yeah.
And that comes with other advantages, like potentially it could be deductible on your taxes. So that actually brings the impact or the effective rate of that interest even lower, which is pretty amazing as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of ways that people can save on their college costs. Can you share one or two of the best ways that people can save on their costs for college?
Planning ahead is key. Definitely planning which schools to apply to, knowing which schools to apply to. Those schools that are more likely to offer the child merit scholarships. You don't want to only apply to those reach schools because most likely you're not going to be offered as much merit aid. But it's finding those schools that will be a good fit, both for the student and for the school where they want to offer merit aid to the student. So it's important to do the research beforehand. Another important factor in terms of, finding money is also, making sure those forms are filled out correctly. Many people fill them out, incorrectly, especially in cases of divorce. So, it's determining who that custodial parent is, even if it differs from, say, what's in the divorce agreement versus, who declare. It's not necessarily the same either as who takes the child as a dependent on the tax returns. So it's just making sure that the forms are filled out correctly to maximize that aid.
So I'm going to ask you to elaborate on your first point a little bit. Preparing, I'm a huge proponent of preparing for anything, really, especially something that when you look at what colleges are costing now, you're lucky if you're getting away with, under $150,000 for 4 years. And that's just the beginning if you want to specialize in anything. So anything that people can do is huge. And you mentioned you want to find the right school. Different schools have different ways of looking at a family, right? So I know there's multiple ways or methodologies, I guess, that schools use in order to look at that. Can you share a little bit more when you say finding that right school? What does that mean?
So first of all, every family, no matter what dynamic it is, whether married, divorced, it doesn't matter. But every family has different needs. Some there may be zero financial need on paper, but yet, they don't have anything saved and they still want to find merit scholarships. Some families on paper may have huge financial need. So it's forecasting what that financial need looks like, and then figuring out what schools are either going to offer the most in merit scholarships to try to bring down that total cost, as well as those with financial need, which schools are going to allow for that and cover that portion versus which schools are going to say, well, sorry, you need to take out more in loans. Right. So there are ways, there are calculators out there that will do this for each school, and it's a general guideline. It's not an exact science, but it certainly helps with planning before you apply in advance.
Really creating that target list, understanding that target list, not just because they have a great football program or something like that, but really understanding who you want to go after, so to speak, from a school, and understanding how that matches up with you as a family obviously becomes so vital. And that's not a 20-minute endeavor or effort. Obviously, there's a lot of planning and a lot of thought that needs to go.
I mean, it's unfortunate. There are times that prospective clients will call me literally the 11th hour. The child's already left for school. And, they're there, they pick the one school that the child had to go to, and then they say, well, how do we save money now?
Right.
It's too late. You committed to the school.
Yeah.
So, planning is definitely key.
And I'll say, we hear when our children are born, if not before, that college is an expensive endeavor. If you've been through college, you know it, And people say to you, oh, you have your first kid, oh, start saving now. Well, as we heard earlier, that can get derailed for, many reasons. But not everybody has the ability to think, knowing that there are resources like yourself to help lower costs, I think brings some relief to people, especially someone who didn't start or hasn't got much savings there. But when is the best time for you to start working with parents to prepare for college?
Typically, I'll start for planning in advance purposes. I'll start sophomore year or more so junior year, but I do work with some sophomores in high school. Junior year, definitely, because that way we can go through with the child what types of schools they're looking for, what types of programs they might be interested in, majors, geographic regions, and start what their grades are like, their test scores, if they have test scores, which is a whole other story with, this pandemic we're currently in. But anyway, to go through and be able to present a data-driven list to the family, so that way they can go and research these schools and see if this is something that is a good match for the student and a place to apply.
So I guess, obviously we want to do it early, but we don't want to do it when somebody's middle school. When is it? The junior year the best year? Is the sophomore year? When, from that perspective of the child's high school, the high school career, I guess, when is the best time for them to really start diving into this then?
I would say junior year. However, I've had clients come to me sophomore year, and the families will tell me that they don't want to wait till junior year because they know that so much else is going on junior year. Junior year is a huge year in terms of, taking the tests and driver's ed and AP classes. It's just a huge year for the kids. So they were trying to space it out. Some families wait till summer right before their, the Common App opens August 1st for the students to start filling out their applications and essays. And some people wait till, literally right before. I don't advise that, but it's still better than not doing it at all.
Right. Right. And I think part of that also, I wouldn't be surprised anyway. I don't remember the exact statistic, but there's an enormous percentage. I want to say it's over a third of students do not graduate from the college that they start at. I think part of that is the lack of preparation potentially. They look at a school, as I said, because they got a great college football program and they want to be part of the rah-rah and the energy around the athletics, but they're not really looking at the school based on who they are or what they really want, or even if they know at that age what they want to do with their life. So the more that they can prepare, the more they can look at these schools, obviously the better choice they're going to make, not just financially, which obviously is very, very important, but in addition to that, the right fit, that they're going to get the greatest experience and they're going to be prepared best for what they want to do after that as well. So I think, as you said, 2 years sounds like a lot sometimes, but it's really not.
I mean, to address that, I do work with different college advisors and career counselors, and those career advisors will work with students and help for those kids that are undecided in terms of a major, and help to see their strengths, their weaknesses, give them assessments to help them find appropriate majors. So that way, instead of graduating on a 6-year plan, they can graduate in the 4 years time and save money in tuition that way. Again, key is all in planning.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And as we know, schools are very, very expensive. I mean, they range. I don't think there's any state schools that are under 10 or 15,000 a year, and there's private schools that are more than people's salaries. And I think just adding one semester or 1 year because you hadn't done your preparation up front, it can be a really big financial impact. I don't know what this last graduating class was as of May, but I know that the 2019 graduating class, the average loans coming out was around $33,000. The average income of that student was less than $28,000. So you can see just the impact that not preparing is going to have on somebody, which is huge, I think, in that way.
Oh, definitely. No, I totally believe. And when I work with parents, we'll always talk about, if they need to take out loans, depending on this, I'll discuss one family that I worked with. Their student was going to a private, expensive school. That's where they wanted to go. But yet, on paper, I didn't think it was necessarily the best move. And, we went through all the numbers to see what that impact was going to look like for them. Because, I just want people to be fully aware what they're potentially taking on.
I think that's huge. And, I wish I had the infographic ready. You can look at it on my Facebook page. But I posted, I want to say it was mid last week, a graphic from Prudential that shows the majority of people, when they sign their student loans, actually have no idea what they're signing. They don't know the interest rate, they don't know the payment they're going to pay, and they don't know for how long they have to pay on each loan. And that's more than 50%, and sometimes it was in the 60% range, depending on the category. So that's huge. When you're signing a mortgage, everyone knows the details.
Right.
This is kind of funding your future, and people really don't know what they're signing, which is a little scary.
At the beginning of the show, you were talking about the emotions and the finances. Here's where it gets emotional. We're dealing with our children. Our children want to go to this school. We're going to do what we can to make our children happy.
Right.
Yeah, there has to be a little bit of split of emotions and finances.
Right.
When we're talking about college.
And that's difficult because if you don't step back, your emotions only win about 100% of the time. So you do. And I agree with you. It's hard because, naturally we want the absolute best for our children. It's what we want. Yes. It's who we are as parents. So I get that. And we're going to go to a break in about half a minute. So I'm going to ask, how can people reach you? I know they've seen it flash on the screen, but if you can, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to reach you?
College Financial Prep is the name of my company. So it's collegefinancialprep.com, and on Facebook.com, page is College Financial Prep. That's the easiest way. And collegefinancialprep@gmail.com.
So easy ways to get a hold of Vicky, and it's on your screen right now. And we will be back after we pay some bills, and please stay tuned with us. Hi, welcome back. This is a Financial Wellness Hour. I am Hirsch Sermon. I am your host, and we are on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we are very happy to have away from the next financial aid season. We have Vicky Vollweiler with us, who is the founder of College Financial Prep, has given us already some fantastic information on how to prepare for getting college ready and how to save a lot of money on it. And again, I think sometimes, or if people haven't really thought it through, giving you some timing related to when you should get started and some of the things that you should think about before you just dive in. So just continuing our discussion, Vicky, as we mentioned earlier, the outcome may be very different based on a family situation and the type of school or the school's method of how they evaluate. If someone recently went through a divorce and has a child in high school, what are some of the things they should do?
One, they should think about who the custodial parent is. And what I mean by that is where the child lives predominantly. For instance, there were clients that had come to me and they said, you know, one person lived in location A and one person lived in location B. And the one who lived in location A said that she was the custodial parent. Well, no, because the students went to school in location B and it was too far of a distance for her. So, you know, if there is one parent who earns significantly less, for financial aid purposes, it may make sense for that child to live with the parent who earns significantly less. So that way you can accurately fill out the financial aid forms and qualify for more aid. You know, that's definitely one key.
Right. Now, I would imagine as well, if they're looking at a state school and one lives in one state, one lives in another, if it's a state school, would that play in as well, that they should look at in-state versus out-state tuition? Would something like that play in as well?
So, do me a favor, say the question again. So, in-state.
And a lot of people live over the bridge or over the river, of the Hudson River in New Jersey. If
right, stay where you want to apply. Definitely stay in the state that you want to apply to.
Right.
You know,
okay.
it goes
that's what I thought. I mean, I know sometimes the state out of tuition can be double what in-state tuition can be. So again, there's a lot of planning, preparing, and thinking through, and that doesn't happen this summer before they go to school. So that's why these shows are here and resources like this. And sorry, I think it was so.
I'm sorry, say that again?
No, I thought we were speaking at the same time. I wasn't sure if you had something to add to that or not.
No. But it is. It's very important to plan in advance, because without the plan, you know, it's certainly going to change the aid that's offered and the bottom line cost.
Right. So we spoke about if you have a kid in high school, what happens, same situation, recently went through a divorce, and you have a child who's already in college. Can you still help that family at this point?
With the child in college, yes. And even with the child in high school, yes. Because when we go to fill out the financial aid forms, we're going to be using tax data that's basically 2 years old by the time they enter college. So right now, the current freshmen that just entered this fall, we use 2018 tax data. So between when we filled out the financial aid forms and when those tax returns were done, a whole host of things could have changed, you know, within the family, within the dynamics, whether it's divorce, whether it's job loss, or, you know, change in income. You know, I mean, unfortunately, there could have been a death of a parent, you know, a whole host of things. So it's definitely possible to go and, you know, put in an appeal for more aid and, you know, get it done.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Can you give us an example? Because we've mentioned a few times, if a family is married versus divorced, you should have a different approach or can have a very different outcome. So can you give us an example of how you've helped a divorced family save some money as they've gone through this process?
There was one mom, the custodial mom, who came to me. 3 children. Both parents were sharing in the cost of college, but because it was the custodial mom and hers was the only information I needed based on the schools that her children were going to. One was going to be a senior in college, one was going to be a junior in college, and one was entering freshman year. So the child was still in high school at the time.
Family.
What?
I said, God bless that family. I had 2 in college at the same time, so wow.
Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
but one was in a private school, and the other 2 were going to public schools. But ultimately, after filling out the financial aid forms and then filing for these changes in circumstances, because now the family was separated, literally was able to save the family over $50,000 just for the 1 year.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was incredible.
That's amazing. That is. And what you just mentioned, for the most part, and I might be simplifying things quite a bit here, but for the most part, a family applies for financial aid with a little bit of a rear view mirror approach. What I mean by that is, as you said, somebody who's entering college now, you're using the 2018 tax returns, and much is based on their prior financial situation. So can you talk a little bit, like, what happens if something drastic happens? Like, let's say, a global pandemic or, something like that. I'm sure that there are several situations that can cause families to have a change in their situation. And I'm going to ask a little bit if you can highlight just a couple of those that might get them thinking about what's happening in their specific situation, and what advice would you give or actions you can help them take if something like these have happened to them specifically?
So say it's job loss, whether due to COVID or some other reason. Say there's a medical illness in the family and high medical expenses. Say it's, a separation or divorce. Say it's widowhood. Say it's some other traumatic change. Maybe all of a sudden another child is going to college and that wasn't expected. Some other dynamic that causes a big financial change in the family.
Right.
It's important to be able to document it all and put it together like a case to be able to present to the college or university. So that way they have something to look at to make a decision on if you should get more aid.
So I like that a lot because, we can prepare as much as we want, and sometimes there are unforeseen circumstances, and we shouldn't just think, oh, we did all we can. We put 2 years of prep in and now they're at school. We really should be kind of pushing the envelope when things are changing and be our best advocate for ourselves. It's the best way to save money. But again, maybe working with someone like yourself to really guide them through how to prepare that case becomes that much more valuable as well, I think, sometimes as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And, schools are aware, life happens, things happen. It's unfortunate, but, there are systems in place that, we can certainly work through and help families financially to be able to save the money on the cost of college.
Right. No, definitely. And I mean, I'm a huge champion of preparing ahead of time. I've mentioned more than once, my approach is to prioritize, organize, and simplify. So prioritizing in this instance would be something like, which are the schools that I want to target, and then I want to organize by researching, seeing which are the best ones for me, and simplifying by getting my final list is just an example of how to have an approach towards, something like college funding. And this gives you a framework. I mean, it doesn't have to be the one I work on, but having that framework of how to move forward, I think, is very important. Much of that is educating yourself. And I want to throw this out through reliable sources. There's too often, I think, we go on the internet and we get information and it's not necessarily substantiated, or it may be 100% accurate, but completely irrelevant to you as an individual. You applying and the one they're talking about is a CSS profile school. So really understanding the information you're dealing with, I think, becomes very, very important. As I've said 2 or 3 times, FAFSA season is in 1 month. October 1st it opens. That's crazy that it's 1 month from today. And I'd recommend, I want to ask you if I know you're generously offering some free webinars and educational sessions coming up. Can you talk a little bit about those? I recommend people take advantage of these free sessions. Never do without enough education on these things. So can you share a little bit more about what's coming up and what you're offering?
So on September 15th, I'm offering a free workshop via Zoom on how to save money on the cost of college. We're going to be talking about the different financial aid forms, FAFSA, CSS profile. We're going to be talking about merit scholarships, financial need, student loans, work study, just a primer for people to learn about the financial aid process. On Thursday, September 17th, also at 7 p.m., we're going to be doing divorce, college, and financial aid, which is going to be very similar to Tuesday nights, except we're going to be discussing divorce and separation and its impact on the different areas that I discussed, whether it's FAFSA, whether it's, student loans, and what people should consider as they're moving forward. So you can find information. Sorry, you can find information about that on my website. It's under the Register Now section. They're free, but when you register there, then an email will be sent to you with the link for the workshop.
Great. So I just want to reiterate, there's 2. You can sign up at collegefinancialprep.com. They both at 7 p.m. That's Eastern time. I just want to make sure, because we do have people listening from all over the country. But even if you are out of state and not on the eastern side of the country, you can certainly tune in and listen and get that valuable information. You to repeat the dates, was it the 15th and the 17th coming up?
Yes, Tuesday the 15th for how to save money on the cost of college, and then Thursday, September 17th for divorce, college, and financial aid. And if anybody, can find it on the website, I think it's under collegefinancialprep.com/register now.
So, okay. So again, I recommend that's 2 weeks from today. That's 2 weeks basically before the financial aid season opens up. And if you need, you can obviously reach out ahead of time. Vicky is always very accessible as well. Vicky, I'm going to ask if you can also talk a little bit about kind of your process, your approach. It's great to know that you have this information, but can you walk, and there's no real typical client, I get that, but can you kind of help people understand the steps that they would take when they work with you, your process and your services?
So I'm a firm believer that, I believe it's a quote from Ben Franklin. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I definitely stress, when possible, you plan in advance. You start this junior year with doing the research before you apply to college. Then come senior year, filling out the financial aid forms, whether it's FAFSA and or CSS profile. That depends on the schools that the child is applying to. There's also some nuances for divorce and separation. We'll get into it on the workshop, definitely. After that, it's possible that schools may ask for verification regarding the information that was submitted. So you want to always make sure that everything is on the up and up. Typically after that, the child will receive their acceptance letters, and after that will come the financial award letters. Once the child receives the financial award letters, I'll help clients with analyzing those awards, make sure we're comparing apples to apples, in terms of looking at how much free money is the family getting, what was the starting cost, what is the bottom net price, and how much you might need to take out in loans for each of those schools. So that way, each family can make the best financial decisions for themselves.
Right.
Also, through looking at that, we may determine that one school is giving, offering more free money than another school, and say the child really wants to go to that other school. You know, we may put together appeal letters based on that information, plus whatever else is going on in the family, to request more aid. And then from there, once the families make their decisions, we'll work on student loans, making sure that the family has what they need at the best,
Right.
the lowest interest rates, the best terms, you know, whatever the family's priorities are.
Okay, so again, I want to reiterate, the process is complicated sometimes, being prepared, but also not just accepting. You can get creative, as you've just mentioned. For example, you can go to one school that you really want to go to and say, school B is offering, can you match that, kind of a thing? And I'm using
that
my
doesn't
word.
mean it doesn't mean they're automatically going to say yes, but
Correct.
I'm making this up. Even if that school offers another $1,000 a year, hey, that's $4,000.
Right. And
doesn't hurt to ask.
As we said earlier, we want the best for our kids, and if that's really the school they want, if we can save money getting them there and making it affordable and making it happen, we want to do that, obviously, important as well. The other thing, just there's so many variables that go into this as well. And I think sometimes, you know, we look at families, and I've seen this where there's almost like these you know, my dad went to this school, so I'm going to go to this school. And then the next sibling says, well, my older sibling went, I'm going to go to this. But it doesn't always make sense. Not every kid in your family is right for the same school. And that's part of the planning process as well. I think, as you know, you had mentioned earlier how understanding potentially what field they want to go into. They may not know what they want, but they know they want to be in medicine. They might know they want to be in STEM. And understanding, you know, each kid is different, and they may need different things from their college becomes part of the preparation that becomes so important with this. So two of the major ones I think we've seen a couple times playing through, obviously, is picking the right school for the right kid, and then the other one is not preparing. What other, and I don't like to use the word mistakes, but what other obstacles or stumbling blocks do you see people fall over when they're doing this process, if I can put it that way, and don't always make the optimal choice in what they're doing, and just maybe to highlight something like that as well for them?
Couple of stumbling blocks. FAFSA, the FAFSA form. Do you need to hire somebody to do the FAFSA form for you? No. Do you need to hire an accountant to do your tax return for you? No. I've had clients come to me that had tried to do it themselves, you know, and then with one client, a custodial dad, I helped him reduce his EFC, which is expected family contribution, by $17,000 because they made mistakes. There was another client who came to me. I had done her FAFSA form for the child for freshman year, and then she went and do it on her own. I find out at the 11th hour that she wasn't able to do it, and the child at this point was now in danger of losing her scholarships. So it's important to make sure you know what you're doing. You know, you have to be very, very careful when you answer those questions.
No, most definitely. And I'm going to, and by the way, on that comment, you do not have to have a CPA do your taxes. I'm going to do a shameless quick plug for myself here. If you feel you need a CPA, to reach out to me through lifecycle.financial, and I can help you with that. I do have a quick question that came in, and we're starting to run out, and it might, out of time, it might really need an offline discussion. But one of the people that I've interacted with in the past asked, and it's kind of complicated in 2 lines, so we may need to, as I said, push this to offline, but said, my children received a $5,000 inheritance following the death of their great-grandfather. The money has not been dispersed yet. Is it better to hold off until the one child going to college next year, the other in 3 years after? What is the best thing to do with the money? They do have college savings plans. Do I just add it there? So as I said, you may need to look at the larger picture, but if you have any insights on that, or I can connect the two of you afterwards.
I would just say keep it in the parent's name right now, because that will be assessed, if that's the right word. They look at the parents' assets at a lower rate than they do the students' assets.
Okay,
So
great.
I would keep it in the parent's name right now.
Okay, and I will connect the two of you after the show in case she has any other questions, but I think that's very valuable. It's the same $5,000 whether it sits in bucket A or bucket B. Why would you want to kind of ruin it by spending more money? I'm going to ask once more, Vicky, if you can share your contact info, and if you have any like kind of last thoughts maybe that we can wrap it up with those.
I mean, last thoughts are the way to save the most money is to plan ahead. It's finding the colleges that are going to offer the most in free money, whether it's, and I'm not saying your child has to go to a state school, but certainly consider the state schools, and then consider the other universities that may come in and either beat what your potential cost is at a state school, or consider options, especially in this day and age and pandemic with so many kids doing remote learning. I mean, living at home may be a consideration to save money as opposed to living in a dorm and doing remote online classes. So it's important to consider all the factors.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences and insights, and for making a not so simple topic sound a lot simpler than it really is. And that's not an easy task under any circumstances. You can get a hold of Vicky through collegefinancialprep@gmail.com or through her website, collegefinancialprep.com. You can read it through me, or if you have any questions for me as well, you can reach out through lifecycle.financial. Again, that's lifecycle.financial. Thank you, Vicky, so much. My guest next time is going to be Jackie Mellinger, and we are going to be discussing a lot of things around what's happening in COVID, scams, how to protect yourself, and more. And she is the founder of My Personal Bookkeeper, .com. So we will see you in 2 weeks, and thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it.